a superstar in green and white, sacrifice his body. Knocked away.
It's Wayne Spooney here with my guy, Jake Eisenberg, on First to the Floor. Jakey, no news, right? Slow day.
Hey.
No big deal.
We're just going to come on here. We're going to talk Summer League. We're going to hit Dalano, Banton, Oshae, Brissett, all the big stuff. I appreciate Brad doing this literally 45 minutes before we plan to go live. So no details to iron out. This cap is really simple. And if anyone's been following the show, I'm great at numbers. So thank God Spoonie's here to help me figure all this out.
We got this, baby. I got some back of the napkin math that we'll be relying on. Who knows how accurate it is. So if you have not been on Twitter or you randomly stumbled upon here and are not a basketball fan, the Boston Celtics about half an hour ago traded Grant Williams to the Dallas Mavericks. In a sign and trade deal where Grant was signed for just about the full MLE, the non-taxpayer MLE. The Celtics get a whopping 2 second-round picks back and a second-round pick swap. The Spurs were the third team, and they get Reggie Bullock as kind of the matching salary and a 2030 first-round pick swap. So, Jake, when you saw that come through, man, like what was your first thought?
It's been real, and I had a look at all of the sign and trade kind of returns from the past couple of years and was like, that's pretty standard return. It's actually a pretty good return for someone like Grant Williams. I'll try and pull up the tweets so people can see like some of the other returns, but I think this is the reality of the new CBA. I do think that if we had the old CBA, Grant would still be here, but this was basically going to push us into the second apron, which is going to really limit our flexibility for the upcoming season. And as much as I would have liked to have kept Grant, he's not good enough to limit your flexibility this season because you never know what's going to come along. And I think you're able to plug those holes pretty easily with Porzingis coming in. I think there was a roster crunch for Grant anyway, with Porzingis, Rob, and Al. So I think from that perspective, the writing may have been on the wall a little bit. We can get into it. I think Grant is probably the most polarizing player on the team.
Him and Marcus, dude, the two guys. Yeah.
I was going to say, even Marcus, I feel like everybody finally came around over the last 2 seasons about what he did for the team. And you can kind of see by I would say, overwhelming response from Marcus that everybody mostly felt, I'd say 90% of people felt the correct way about Marcus. But Grant definitely has everybody split. And I think maybe we can get into that. But yeah, I don't know. What were your first thoughts?
So yeah, I think I'm split on how I feel about Grant, dude. Like 1 minute I'm like, oh, this guy's so good, I'd pay him $15 million a year. And then the next minute I'm like, cut him, this bum. So he's just an inconsistent player. He's a young role player. Those guys are often inconsistent. Yeah, I think the big thing for me is I, at this point, expected Grant to be back just because there's no salary cap left. No cap room left for someone to make a crazy offer to him. And so then we're just competing with the full MLE. And that's what Grant got, like 12.5 AAV. I just figured we'd match that. So I was shocked that we weren't willing to match that and just bring him back. I get that. Look, there's probably a roster crunch limiting Grant's minutes if everybody's healthy. But I don't know how often Al Horford, Robert Williams, and Kristaps Porzingis are going to be healthy. That's the reason I wanted to keep Grant around, is like, yeah, he might play no minutes for 2 games straight, and then he might be starting for a week and a half, you know? So maybe that's not a role he's interested in. And maybe that was part of it. I guess we'll probably never know. But real quick, Jake, before I bounce it back to you, the cap ramifications.
Yeah.
Bobby Marks tweeted that this saves the Celtics $40 million in tax. So you're starting to see, like, I think, and I'll toss it to you on this question, but I think this is probably ownership driven, but we do have almost exactly the taxpayer MLE below that second apron now. We're just over 5 million below. So we may be able to use the taxpayer MLE, and maybe that's how we replace Grant. But do you feel like this is ownership driven? Like if it's Brad's decision, does he bring him back?
No, I mean, I really think because the second apron isn't as punitive this season as it is seasons going forward. But you'll have to remind me. But I think it really limits what you're able to do with trades in this current season. Like you have a lot of that. You can't aggregate salaries.
Yep.
You can't take back over 100% of a player coming back in. And so that's, I think, what Brad's like really, he's got all these second round picks. He still has Malcolm Brogdon's salary. Like there's a lot of stuff that can still be done. And I really think that was what it came down to. And people, I thought I said, yeah, I mean, did you think it was, I've seen people definitely saying they think it was ownership and they didn't want to spend this much on the tax bill. I think it has more to do with the second apron and limiting their flexibility. But that being said, like if that saves them $40 million on tax and that opens up this other move, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see who they get back. I know I was talking to a Rockets fan. Can we fit Jayshawn Tate into the TPE? Problem is he makes just over the TPE. So I haven't had time to like really dive into. Obviously, haven't had time to dive into the 6 million TPE or who's still available from a free agency perspective. So we will have to see. But all these second round picks plus Malcolm Brogdon's salary, you can start to put together like a Malcolm Brogdon plus lots of pick stuff. That maybe you get a better fit. That someone's going to be more impactful than Grant. But yeah.
Yeah, and the reason why we got a $6 million traded player exception, which means we can take on a salary without having to send out matching salary up to $6 million, is because Grant is subject to what's called the base year compensation rule, which means he counts his $12 million going out, but we can only take back in his $6 million. So that's why it's really tough to sign and trade guys who are restricted free agents coming off their rookie deal. And that's why the Spurs were involved, because the salary matching gets so tricky when a guy's in the BYC. So that's why we didn't get that full 12 million traded player exception. We just got the 6 million. But yeah, I don't know. To me, it seems like Brad might have a problem. We might need an intervention. He might need to go to rehab because this man is addicted to second round picks. Dude, this is insanity.
It's just going to be a team full of Jordan Walshes. Like what could go wrong?
I once joked when we took Begaron that Brad's going to have a stash player in every country in Europe as a joke. That might actually happen at this point.
Yeah. And who's to say it's a bad strategy at this point?
Yeah,
like,
it's true.
So I guess on Grant, right? So the Grant experience has come to an end for now. I saw, and you kind of touched on it, like is Robin healthy or Al healthy? And Spoonie bring in the GM knowledge. Thank the Lords. I saw, Grant is good Rob insurance, but I think this was the issue with Grant. Like he never really, to me, shed, like he was solid, but he was like the definition of a tweener. They never went to him at small ball 5. That was last year under Joe. That was Ime the year before. It's because he's 6'6". Like he is shorter than Tatum and Jaylen. So that was always something they weren't willing to go to. I wish we could have seen it so we could at least make a more informed assessment of like of how real that was. But I do feel like that Grant, like defensive reputations in the NBA, once you get them, they stick no matter if they're good or bad. Like Steph Curry, I feel like still has his bad defender reputation, but he's become like a really good guard defender. Grant, I feel like had the Nets and the Bucks series, and I went back and forth with Danger Card on Twitter here just before. It feels like Grant's defensive reputation is way kind of outweighing what his actual defensive impact is on the court. There's a certain matchups where he does really well. He obviously played well against Giannis. Jimmy Butler, you think is the type of guy that he played well against, but Jimmy was pretty comfortable against him. Not great against smaller guards on switches. Not great at screen navigation. And then he's not really a rim protector. So like he was just kind of more solid across the board, but I don't feel like we lost like a playoff defender that is swinging playoff series in our favor. Like obviously he was great in that Nets and Bucks series, but to me, was that more because that overall defense was so insane that year where everybody was playing defense at a really high level that like it was a rising tide all boats, because it didn't feel like he was there this year.
Yeah, I think his defense took a pretty big step backwards, because I remember tweeting out several times during the Ime season, like, Grant is sticking with like point guards out on the perimeter and doing a really good job on them. And then, there's clips of Duncan Robinson blowing by him off the dribble in the playoffs. So I don't know what happened. I'm with you. Yeah, like people are like, oh, we're going to lose a great defender who's a 3-point shooter. Like, that is half true in both counts, right? Like, he has his moments defensively where he's really good. He also has his moments where he's terrible, and he is money on wide open threes, but he doesn't shoot enough of them.
Yeah.
And he doesn't shoot them when he's got a hand in his face. So his spacing only goes so far. And then we saw some of the challenges, the growing pains, we'll say, with him trying to put the ball on the floor and drive closeouts and things like that. So, I'm more or less lean towards being a Grant believer. But I also think like his biggest defenders talk about him like sort of this irreplaceable cog in the machine. I'm not exactly sure I don't think that's the case either.
Yeah. Look, if you gave me two options, keep Grant, don't keep Grant, throw out all of the other ramifications, would have preferred to keep Grant. Who are we going to get, that's going to be as good as Grant? Probably not someone quite as good as Grant. But I would say right now the defensive personnel might be even like better when we're going to get into the Oshae, Brissetts, and kind of the roster that's being filled out around him. But Porzingis and Al playing in drop, and Rob and Tatum has become a mini Rob in the way that he plays help defense. I would say was the biggest development in Tatum's game last year was he became like a rim protector when Rob was out and playing that roaming role. And so now you can have either Al or Porzingis playing the drop, and either Tatum or Rob playing the roaming role. And if Rob's on the court as well, Tatum's playing every other position under the sun. Love Grant, would have preferred him to stay, but it's gone too far. Like he didn't help against the Heat. Like he could not get over the screens in all the off-ball actions. Famously in game 2, got cooked by Jimmy down the stretch and couldn't get a stop. Like not an elite offensive player. Like, okay, Hauser couldn't get on the court in the playoffs. Are we sure that he can't just be as good, if not more effective than Grant, given the opportunity?
I think offensively he'd be way better. Defensively, I'm not sure. And I think Landon's bringing up, I think Landon's maybe sarcastically bringing up, can't wait to see the unicorn Porzingis defend Giannis. And it's like, that is probably the most compelling argument for keeping Grant Williams to me, is like, you're still in a conference with Giannis, and Al Horford's about to be 37, 38 years old. I mean, Rob has done okay here and there. He's also gotten cooked by Giannis at times as well. He's just not really strong enough. And I don't think KP G4F this is what I'm getting at. I don't think KP can guard Giannis. So that's why I think the compelling argument is like, you just need a Giannis defender on this team, and he can keep the floor spaced on the other side. So like, I don't know, but when you look at the tax, and that $40 million tax is like if he stayed at $6 million a year. So that's not even including his raise. So there's just a lot of different factors that led up to why he's gone. But yeah, I think to your point, Jake, like in a vacuum, if we could just add Grant Williams with zero ramifications, why wouldn't we? Of course we're going to do that, but that's not how it works.
Yeah, I think this is the KP move has led to having to do this other stuff. And Brad is making a bet that KP is going to solve a lot of problems. And I think when you look at the Celtics issues in the playoffs, the last 2 seasons, going to keep coming back to it. The defense wasn't as good as we wanted to be, sure. But the number one reason the Celtics do not have a title, do not have banner 18, is because of the offense. People want to talk about the drop coverage against Steph Curry not really working. They held the Warriors like 107 points per game in that series. The reason they didn't win is because they couldn't score. The reason they didn't beat the Miami Heat was because in game 1 and 2 down the stretch, they could not manufacture buckets. The reason they didn't beat Milwaukee in less than 7 games is because they had a couple games where the offense stalled out late in games. That is by far and away the biggest issue on this team. When you have a team that still has Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Robert Williams, Porzingis, the defense is going to be fine. Like in the playoffs, and then all you need is 1 or 2 other guys that can play acceptable level of defense. And I think when you look at the overall impact of the team, if you can get that offense to another level, that kind of actually makes your defense easier. You're limiting transition, which is something that doesn't happen when you can't score and Jimmy Butler's coming down the other end and he's got an open court and he's able to just like free flow and draw free throw after free throw, as opposed to being in a set defense where Derek White has the chance to actually block some of those shots. I think it's just a cascading effect. And that's the bet that Brad is making.
Yeah, and I actually think there's a sneaky little thing we don't talk about a lot when it comes to getting stops and playing defense. And it's something Grant was absolutely, truly terrible at. And it's securing defensive rebounds, man. Like he was an awful defensive rebounder. You'd think he'd be like a big time box out guy, and he really wasn't. And how many times down the stretch of games did we see the other team snag a back-breaking offensive rebound? And that's not all Grant's fault. I'm not pinning it all on Grant, but like if you can score and you can clean up the defensive glass, that is a really, really great foundation to build upon. And I wonder how much of seeing Jokic in that drop win the title changed Brad's thinking, because I think Brad was like the biggest proponent of the switch everything defense. And then here come the Nuggets with a slow plotting center that should get smoked in the playoffs. And I think it back, like Denver walked to the title, basically. Like no one really challenged them. So I wonder if that's part of like, okay, you know what? I am comfortable bringing KP into this team because I know a defense around a guy like that can succeed. And KP's a better defender than Jokic is.
Could not agree more. Outside of the Miami Heat, switch everything defense doesn't really exist right now.
Yeah.
Like the Warriors do it a fair bit, but even then, right? Like they have Draymond Green and the Heat have Bam Adebayo. Unless you have those two guys, like Al Horford could switch pretty comfortably against a really big chunk of the NBA, but there's just going to be matchups where he cannot. Trae Young, Steph Curry, stuff like that. But yeah, the Denver drop defense, Milwaukee's been playing that. Milwaukee won the title with playing a drop defense as well. And the key is having good perimeter defenders around the drop. You have Aaron Gordon, you have KCP, you have Christian Brown, you have good rebounding in Michael Porter Jr. You create an infrastructure where the rim protection is really good. You're forcing teams into tricky pull-ups. It's about how you're playing the drop. Like, not every drop defense is created equal. Is the drop up to the correct level? Are you chasing over screens? Is the ball handler comfortable? You can easily create a really good defense playing drop. And by the way, I still think Rob, if you put him at the 5, there are lineups you can go to where you can switch everything.
No doubt. Yeah. So, and real quick on Mitch raises, Denver got away with it because they have one of the best offensive players in NBA history. Miami broke 100 once in the finals.
Yeah.
Their defense was playing really, really well. So obviously having Jokic, huge advantage. Yes. And it goes back to what you're saying. You get to set up your defense because you're so efficient at scoring. That's kind of the vision, I think, with the Celtics too, is like, obviously KP, not nearly as good offensively as Jokic, but KP, Tatum, and Jaylen, I mean, there's not a lot of offensive big threes in the NBA that can compare to that. So I think this has been a drastic switch in how the Celtics are going to play basketball, I think. And this is kind of the last domino to fall.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from the offseason so far, is it like Brad was like, really good team. Mm-hmm. Probably could win a title in the next 1, 2, 3 years. But I'm pretty confident that there's another way to do this, and there's a way to unlock another level in this team, and it's offense. Like, there's a reason why Marcus Smart always took the last shot. It's because he's wide freaking open.
Yeah.
Wide open. There's a reason why Grant Williams made 7 3-pointers in this game 7 of the conference in the second round against the Bucks. Yes, he made every single one, but there's a reason why when he's out on the court, offense becomes really difficult for the rest of the Celtics, because Miami is very comfortable helping off Grant and very comfortable closing out on Grant, because Grant does not get his shot off quick enough, can't drive closeouts, and can't play make out of that. Porzingis can shoot literally over the top and can fire away, can drive these closeouts, can pull up from the mid-range, and can pass out of it at just a completely different level than Grant is. I mean, it's almost rude to put those two guys in the same conversation from offensive impact. But you look at Horford and Rob, KP is like both a mix of both of those guys, and that he's a lob threat. Like, what's great about KP is that he can run pick and pop, and he can also be a lob threat. But also, like, you can throw the ball to him on the perimeter. And Al Horford still drives the odd closeout, but KP's like really comfortable doing it and was like one of the most efficient players driving closeouts in the NBA last season. So, like, that's the bet. And the front court rotation of Al, Rob, and Porzingis, I think, just has a much higher ceiling than what like Grant and Marcus was going to give you. Even if emotionally, like, these are two massive personalities. I can see a bunch of people talking about how we gotten rid of the complainers in the chat here. Tatum the only one left as the last complainer on the team.
Tatum ain't going anywhere.
No, he's allowed. This is the thing. He's always been allowed to complain as the superstar. So, look, I think a lot of this team is like, we're gonna have to wait and see.
Yep.
Like, I think Brad sees the vision. I've gone back and watched a lot of the tape. I can't play any of the clips right now, but going back and watching Porzingis in the Clippers series in the playoffs, he averaged 16 and 6, 1 assist, 0.6 turnovers on like 49, 39, and 86 from the free throw line, like 63% true shooting over his 10 playoff games. It would be nice if he had played in another playoff series, because we could have seen him against a non-Clippers team. But like, you think about Miami, who like to switch everything. He was pretty effective. Like, he wasn't great in the most recent playoff series, but that Mavs team had kind of fallen apart.
Yeah.
And Porzingis' role, just like everybody that plays with Luka, is like just a spot up guy. He didn't run a lot of post ups. They didn't go to him as much as they could have. Like game 7 against the Clippers, Luka had 46, 11, and 12 or whatever, an amazing game 7, but he took 30 shots.
Right.
And I just think that there's going to be a more balanced attack, and that's a credit to Tatum.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think Luka, incredible playmaker, but if you're playing next to him, you're not going to have a lot of ball in your hands. And we know Porzingis can do a lot with the ball. So, yeah, I mean, I just kind of think it's like we're moving on from sort of that Udoka style era of play. It'll be really interesting to see how it plays out. But Grant going isn't the only new news since we've been on, Jake. We signed 2 guys. 2 guys that I actually think kind of interesting because they're young. This is like not the type of minimum contract you see a lot of title contenders sign. You often are looking for those older vets, but both these guys are young, and that's Oshae Brissett, who we got on a 2-year veteran minimum, second year as a player option from the Indiana Pacers, and Dalano Banton, who I believe was also, I think he got the same contract, the 1+1 for the minimum from Toronto. So why don't you hit us with a little, what I think we kind of assigned each other. I've got sort of the Brissett breakdown. You've got some Banton stuff. So who is Dalano Banton, if you don't know, and what's his game like?
So I love this pickup from Brad, and we can get into what Brad's vision is after we discuss these guys for kind of the back end of the bench. But Dalano Banton, depending on which website you use, is somewhere between 6'7" and 6'9", and he's a point guard. I think he's at least 6'8", but he's a 6'8" point guard. And look, I'm not going to pretend like I've watched a lot of Dalano Banton, but that being said, he played under 300 minutes last season. And I went back and watched a lot of his tape. A lot of it came in garbage time. What's surprising to me is why Toronto let this guy go. And it's always good to see what other fans say about this team, about a player that gets let go. A lot of Raptors fans are like, why are we letting go of Dalano Banton? They were talking about how much they liked him. He never really got a real chance here in Toronto anyway. Not only that, that Toronto offense was kind of a mess. So you look at Dalano Banton's 3-point numbers, you don't love that, but this is what he is. He's a huge point guard, really active defender, so really good defender for his position, good rebounder, gets downhill. Like you don't want to you want to see the Celtics shoot less threes. This guy can really attack and get downhill, and because he often has a mismatch, he has success doing that. Now, Nikias Duncan, someone who actually knows what he's talking about, tweeted about Dalano Banton. I've pulled up here. Dalano Banton, big guard, should help juice Boston's transition attack, quality perimeter defender, like him on wings more than shifty guards. Numbers weren't reflected, but took real strides as a jump shooter last season. Still has a ways to go. But he's 23 years old. So it's like, I like taking this flyer on a guy that hasn't had a real chance. He's going to Summer League. Like, this is now I'm way more excited to see the Summer League team with the addition of Banton as well. I really like the fit here. I think he just gives them a flavor that they don't really have. Like, they're kind of looking for a third point guard right now. You have Pritchard, you have JD Davidson that give you one thing. Great comp. As soon as I saw that, I was like, and post injury, Sean Livingston. Let's be clear. Yeah. But yeah, big, athletic, young, hasn't really been given an opportunity. Upside, we will see. I don't want to get too crazy about it, but like, I like the flyer.
Yeah, and he does one thing that I really like out of like wings, because I assume he'll be defending wings and probably be out there with another guard all the time. He's a grab and go guy. When he gets a defensive rebound, he just immediately pushes really hard, and he seems to be pretty comfortable doing that. So that's one thing I will be keeping an eye out in Summer League. Oshae Brissett. I'm writing about him right now. I know. So I've done a lot of research about Oshae. 6'7" wing, 7-foot wingspan, like kind of like a beefy dude. You know what I mean? Like, he can guard up. He played a lot of 4 for Indiana. Rookie year with Toronto, then 3 years with Indy. Second year was kind of a cup of coffee. Then he had kind of a big role 2 years ago. Like 24 minutes a game, and then down to 17 when they added Nesmith, Ben Mathurin, Nembhard. And he's like the M. Night Shyamalan of 3-point shooting. He started hot and it's all gone downhill. Like, 42.3% in his second year, 35% last year, and then this past season down to 31%. Although, one silver lining, shot 34.4% on wide open threes this year. That number was 39% last year. So, if you think maybe that can go back up, he is the worst big wing finisher I have ever seen in my years watching the NBA. He's under 50% from 0 to 6 feet. He can't jump. It's really bizarre. He has no lift when he gets to the rim and tries to finish. Defensively, look, you want heart, you want dog, you want fight.
Yeah.
We're going to love Oshae Brissett. Like, he plays super, super, super hard. He is a decent cutter, clean music lover. I agree with that. Yes. He rebounds really well for a wing. He just fights. Like, he does good on sort of those bigger wings, like your Marcus Morris types. But like, if he gets switched out to a guard, you're maybe in trouble a little bit. Look, there's a reason this guy's available on a minimum, right? He's got some holes, but I like the idea because he's still young. I think he's 25 years old. He's got some room to grow. And yeah, I think Z Gamer says Brissett is like a budget Grant. I think that's a pretty solid comparison. Like, he's not going to play elite defense, but he can cover you. He can guard guys. He can give you 20 minutes a night. And if the shooting starts popping up to that high 30s, that mid high 30s on decent volume, like, he's going to have a nice, valuable role. I'm just not super confident it's going to. So, kind of a mixed bag from Brissett, but I like the vision with both of these signings.
Yeah, I think everybody has to understand that the Celtics aren't really able to give anyone playing time. Like for all these
Right.
signings, someone on Twitter was like, "How do we not get in on a Malik Beasley, Yuta Watanabe?" Firstly, they can't play in the playoffs. Like people that wanted to get Beasley or Watanabe, Eric Gordon went for more than that. The Celtics aren't Josh Richardson. The Celtics aren't able to offer, firstly, more than the minimum. Also, aren't really able to promise playing time to anyone. Like the top 7, top 8, including Hauser. Like I think Hauser's he's gonna. This is a nod to Hauser as well.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm really excited because I'm a Hauser believer. I think he holds up totally fine on defense, especially in the context of this Celtics defense, and then provides like real offensive juice. But now you look at the bench, right? 6'8" Hauser, elite shooter, acceptable defense. Oshae Brissett, 25 years old, 6'7", big, strong, athletic. Maybe isn't the right word when it comes to jumping, but I watched a fair bit as well. Like he's comfortable out in transition. Like like when he because he's big and he hustles. Like I really liked him on the offensive boards. Like he's strong enough and big enough and athletic enough. But yeah, there's something about he just doesn't get the same lift when he's going in for layups that you would kind of assume. But when he has like a clear runway on a cut and he goes up for like a 2-hand slam, that's when it kind of looks okay. So that's another 6'7" dude. Then you look at Dalano Banton, 6'8", point guard, ball handler, playmaker, can defend as well. Jordan Walsh, 6'7", 7'2" wingspan, hyper athletic, elite defender, hoping the offense comes around. Like all of a sudden, there's this like monstrous team. Like the only guy that really projects to have playing time right now that's small is Pritchard. Everybody else can guard up a position, and even Pritchard rebounds well for his position. Like that being a really good defensive rebounding team, especially in the regular season and the playoffs. But like that's a really easy way to have a nice floor for your defense on a night-to-night basis. And then like defending, Oshae Brissett is literally bigger than Grant. Like Grant might be thicker, but Brissett is taller. He looks bigger. How many times you look at you're watching a game and it's like, if only Grant was just 1 inch taller and he could have gotten that rebound.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't seem to be a problem for Brissett. Like he seems to have real success on both the defensive and he's way more comfortable with the ball in his hands to me. Like who do you feel more comfortable driving a closeout, Grant or Brissett?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely Brissett right now
Yeah.
for sure. I think he's a 2-foot leaper. So when he's on the glass or he can load up, he gets good lift off the 2 feet. But when he's like Euro stepping into it, it's just like it's like he's skipping or something. Yeah.
So I just want to say I did not say exceptional. I said acceptable, satisfactory.
For Hauser's defense,
for Hauser's defense,
exceptionally acceptable.
Yeah, exactly. Jake, hey, don't sleep on kangaroo meat. Underrated. Wallaby curry. Don't knock until you try it. People
Fred Fields, Jake is rewriting the team's skill set.
Yeah,
real time.
Good. Look, am I a propaganda machine? Maybe not. Tell me where I lied.
Look, who would you want driving a closeout? Oshae Brissett or Klay Thompson? I think it's pretty obvious who it is.
It's right. Same shooting gravity.
Yeah.
Look, I just think it's okay to replace these guys or replace Grant with this vision with what Brad's kind of putting together. And the reality of this new CBA stuff is like that kind of needs to be the thing with Brissett being a worse shooter is that he's going to be guarded the same that Grant was. Like, and when you talk about
I don't know, man.
when it comes to the playoffs, like Grant is being left alone.
Yeah, I don't think Brissett's going to play in the playoffs, frankly.
Well, yeah.
So, which Grant didn't play a lot in the playoffs either, so it's pretty similar there. I mean, I get what you're saying in that, like, we were talking about Grant's gravity isn't quite as good as it could be because he doesn't take shots unless he's wide open, right? And like Brissett will kind of be the same way, but Brissett is not very good. If I'm being, being totally honest, man. Like I don't want to be mean. If he can get the shot up there, because he's okay, like going to the rim and cutting and stuff like that, but he's really he's a veteran guy, a veteran men guy for a reason, you know.
I see it more from a defensive point of view.
Agreed. Like, yeah, exactly.
People worry about the defense. I think that there's unlimited lineups that Brad can go to, that Joe can go to, that can guard up, be strong, get defensive rebounds, dive on the floor, get blocks. I think this team can be huge. And in the NBA, where we're playing a sport where they designed the way to score in the air, and to have a team that's bigger than the other team has value. As simplistic as that is, yeah. Look, it's a minimum signing. But
exactly.
Like, I like the vision of having 3-4 guys that are 6'8", 6'9", that can do a little bit of everything. It just gives them options.
Yeah. I mean, again, like, and if his shooting clicks back up to that like mid-high 30s, like he's just kind of a different player. I think Banton is the more interesting guy because he has a legitimate offensive skill set as sort of a ball handler, passer type. Brissett is just like a body to me. You know what I mean? That's so disrespectful and I feel bad, but Banton I think is a lot more interesting.
Well, I guess I like it because I was thinking about our deep bench from the Carson Edwards, Shemi Ojale, Tremont Waters, Taco Fall days.
Yeah. Oh, way better than that.
Right?
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, I actually think that this like just makes sense in the modern NBA. Yeah, like our bench is kind of like the Raptors. Like if our bench played the Raptors in a playoff series, they might win.
No, might easily.
I mean, easily, especially with JD Davidson running the point. Like obviously, like who would you rather have? Who would you rather have, JD Davidson?
Barnes?
Who would you rather have, JD Davidson or Dennis Schroeder running the point?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know that one. I don't know. Maybe I could be talked into that. But anyway, that's probably too much on two vet men guys. So before we move on, I want to say first, the floor is brought to you by FanDuel. And the banner should be showing up right now, but it's not. So FanDuel, I don't know why this is happening.
StreamYard's been having
Sorry. Okay, FanDuel, there it is. Got it up. Get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you visit FanDuel.com/Boston. Get a bet in. The Sox are playing the Rangers. It's baseball time. It's summer. You know, bet on Boston. I think we've been kicking around even money for the money line. So go snag the Sox while you can get it on FanDuel. FanDuel.com/Boston. And I apologize for the technical difficulties. That's why we need Ben around.
Ben's in Vanuatu having a great time. We hope you're having a great time. We see you in the chat here, Ben. I'm trying to get this super chat up here.
It's up. I can see it.
Yeah. All three bigs are better defenders than Grant. He wasn't going to play this year. He was actually a very limited defender, getting roasted by guards and wings. This year, Grant was not a good defender.
Yeah, agreed.
And that held true in the playoffs. So I think they're going to be fine. Like there's as terrifying as it is, there's a reason the Celtics are still the betting favorite to win the title right now. I think we just have a very bitter taste in our mouth from the conference finals. But you know, if Satan doesn't take over Caleb Martin's body for 7 games, do the Celtics just win that series like quite comfortably? Probably. If Jaylen Brown doesn't have his worst playoff series of his career, do the Celtics win the series? Yes. And I think that the Celtics still lose to Denver, but like just are so much more comfortable against Denver. So complete side tangent, but shout out for the super chat. We really appreciate it. But I'm still fine.
Yeah, and I think it was Darren Faust. So thank you, man. We appreciate it. Now I can't get the FanDuel thing to go away, so we're just gonna deal with that for now. I mean, I know how to in theory, but it's not working. So
StreamYard's laggy today for me. So
yeah, that's what we'll blame it on. Anyway, all right. So real quick, we got to hit Jaylen Brown not signing his extension yet.
Yeah.
I think this Grant news kind of changes. I think that's a real clear signal that we're probably going to sign Jaylen any day now, and we were probably just waiting to get that out of the way. I'm sure there was stuff kicking around with Grant. So, I mean, are you concerned? Do you think Jaylen's in trade talks or?
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't at all, really. I thought maybe there was like can we get Grant at a number, which if Jaylen takes 34% of the max, does that mean we can keep both kind of thing? I thought that was a potential possibility. This is all speculation. All the reporting's been pretty conflicting as well. Like, it's fragile. It's 100% going to happen, depending on whether you listen to Windhorst or Himmelsbach. So I think right now I would say give it a 98% chance that Jaylen signs like pretty close to the Supermax. I don't know if you have a different read on it right now. Are you freaking out at all?
No, not at all. I'm with you.
Yeah.
This is going to be a pretty boring segment, so we can move on quick. But yeah, I think they just are like, Jaylen, we're going to take care of you. But one thing I wanted to ask you, Jake, because you have been hitting this really hard, is you have had yeah, and I'm killing it with my euphemisms tonight. That was really horrible. But you've been all over this. Is that you have come up with this plan like, look, we're going to be so close to that second Abram and deep into tax territory. What if you go to Tatum and say, like, look, man, take under 35%. And if you talk to Jaylen, maybe we can convince Jaylen to take less than the 35% supermax. So I wonder if maybe that's something you're getting stuck on, or are we just hoping and praying?
Yeah, I would think that they've had the same idea as me. I heard Corrales and Keith Smith have a similar idea, and I was like, oh, they must have been listening, and they didn't credit me. How dare they?
No.
So, like, I'm guessing Brad's had the idea that, like, hey, Jason, are you comfortable taking 33% of the max and making unlimited money for all intents and purposes? That will help us do X, Y, and Z. But that being said, I don't know if you feel the same, but like watching free agency and watching the rookie extensions kind of come through, like Halliburton, Desmond Bain, seeing what Sabonis' extension has looked like, I think everybody, including us, was like, hey, this Jaylen contract, Supermax, quite scary to be paying. As much as we love Jaylen, someone of that caliber, a Supermax is an overpay. That's just how it is. But now seeing how much everybody's getting paid this season, by the time Jaylen's Supermax contract even kicks in, like Freddie VanVleet's making $43 million.
I know. That's insane.
Like we can, like you can do a Bruce Brown plus like Jeremy Grant for Jaylen Brown trade. And I think that we might still have to throw more salary in to make that work. Like, I'm not, obviously they're on different teams, but I'm just throwing out two players that have like, you know, whatever value. The contracts have gotten crazy, and everybody's brain, it's so hard to readjust to like, yeah, Jeremy Grant's making $5 for $160 million, which is definitely an overpay, but like in 2 or 3 years, that's going to be kind of normal. Like Chris Middleton's getting paid $33 million, and he's like the 48th highest paid player in the league. So that's probably been my biggest takeaway in relation to a Jaylen extension, is that like, it's not going to be that big of a deal by the time we get to the contract kicking in or the first year of Jaylen's contract, when it's got 3 years left and the next Supermaxes are like 330, 340 million. Like all of a sudden he's going to be like the 20th highest paid player, which is going to be pretty much in line with his ranking in the league already.
Yeah, he's kind of the first, you know what I mean, under the new and it was going to be any guy who was going to get the Supermax under this new CBA. I think the reaction, unless it was like Steph Curry, somebody on that level, was always going to be like this, like, wow, that is so much money, and look at all these horrible penalties you can run into. So I think it's just partly timing. Like, look, it feels like a lot of money. I really do think like with the Porzingis addition, will cover up some of Jaylen's problems on offense in the playoffs. I think it gives him a really good pick and roll partner that will make things easier for him. So it would be great if we could get him to sign for 32.5% of the cap and him and Tatum do that. I just don't think realistically that's going to happen, especially JB. I think he's part of the Players Association. One of the VPs of the Players Association. And those guys really seem to take it upon themselves as part of their duties, which it is. I'm not dismissing that or saying it's wrong, but those guys really are like, I'm going to get every penny because that's the best thing for the union. And that's how it is. So,
I was going to say on this point that someone made, Halliburton and LaMelo are all-stars in their 20s. Jalen's literally made the all-star game twice and all-NBA, and he's 26. So,
and I'm sorry, not a LaMelo guy.
Yeah, cool.
Not a LaMelo guy.
I'd rather have Jaylen on the Supermax, and if I'm trying to win a title, than LaMelo on his current contract. So, yeah.
Hallie, we could talk.
Very good player.
Yeah. All right. I think that's probably enough on the Jaylen thing. I think we'll probably see that news in the next couple of days here. But wow, we have a lot to get to at 45 minutes. So maybe do you want to jump into Summer League? I'll let you choose. So jump into Summer League real quick. Maybe we could do another pod on that later, or we can get this Jordan Ford report.
Maybe, I think maybe we'll do. I'll just say quickly who I'm most excited to watch.
Let's do that.
Because we'll do another Summer League pod at some point. I mean, I can't go past Welshie. I'm so excited to see Welshie. Like, he's the definition of the Family Guy episode where it's like you could either have Dalano Banton or the mystery box, who could be Dalano Banton. Yeah. Like, I think Dalano Banton might actually dominate Summer League. Like, he's the type of player that I think could find real success. But I want to see what Welshie looks like. I want to see like what he looks like size-wise on a court, the athleticism, the defense. I want to see that kind of stuff, and I want to see what the shot looks like. That's who I'm most excited for. Yeah,
Welshie's way up there for me, but this is my guy.
Yeah,
I made a 25-minute breakdown video of his Summer League last year. It's got to be JD Davison for me. Yeah. It's the perfect environment for an athletic guard who's not a great shooter to excel into, just because the defense is not that great. He should be able to get right to the rim. I anticipate a ton of lobs to that like 7'1" Polish center that we have running out there. And Udoka Azubuike from Kansas. He's also an absolutely massive 7-footer that we've got. So I expect a lot of JD lobs, a lot of JD breakaway dunks and steals. So I think he's going to be really fun. But yeah, Banton should dominate the Summer League, right? He's like 23, 24 years old. So do you have any diamonds in the rough we want to get to real quick? I have one that I want to put people on notice about, but other than that.
No, I mean, like, I'm keen to see Champagny just because I saw someone tweet about how they liked him a while ago. And I was like, I'd kind of written him off in my head because he didn't do anything cool in the garbage time minutes that he did play. So I was like, oh, well, that's it for him. But, he's 6'6" and in theory could be a shooter scorer. So again, kind of fitting into that mold that Brad's looking for. But yeah, who you got?
Okay. Jay Scrubb. I think he was a 2019 or 2020 55th overall pick. He went to JUCO, never made it to Division I, just a JUCO guy. 6'5" guard, but dude, he's an insane athlete, sort of pretty solid handle. He's a lefty, good length, shot 63% from 0 to 5 feet in the G League last year. Like, he could get to the rim, he's explosive, and he can finish. He cannot shoot, but it looks okay. It looks all right mechanically. Not a great defensive player and had a negative assist to turnover ratio. But I think he's going to be really fun in Summer League. And like, he had his draft, like when he was in the draft, so there were those folks who were like, I'm a Jay Scrubb guy. Like, I think he's going to be really good. So I was convinced by those people. I'm a Jay Scrubb fan. I'm looking forward to see him play. And this will probably be a very embarrassing clip in like 2 months.
Yeah, but look, I like bringing all these non-shooters. Everybody's freaked out about this layup or three mentality. We can't shoot too many threes if no one can shoot threes.
Yeah, Brad's taking it away from Joe.
Genius.
All right. If you are new to the First to the Floor podcast, then you might not know that Jake has his own special segment that we like to call the Schadenfreude report, and I'm probably mispronouncing that, where Jake checks in on some of our least favorite NBA teams and basks in the glory of their misery. So, Jake, who do you have for us?
Well, I think at the top of the list, and you did pretty good with the pronunciation, but the Schadenfreude, I think, is the
all
is
right.
the official. Yeah, look, I've been in the lab this offseason. You know?
Yeah, you killed that.
So the Sixers are at the top of this list, and if you don't know Schadenfreude, yeah, that's just anything that bad that happens to your enemies makes you feel fantastic. So the Sixers, I think, might be done. Like they were already running on fumes anyway with the Harden thing. And so with the Harden trade, request, demand, whatever you want to call it, they have two options. It's either bring back Harden, who we were already pretty comfortable with bringing back a Harden, that another year older, another year more well done on the barbecue. Already happy with that. But now if Harden comes back, he's also, we might get fat suit Harden. We might get Harden playing against the Sacramento Kings looking like he has a concussion. We might get that version of Harden. The other option, the best trade that appears to be on the table right now, is like Norman Powell and Batum. And like, I like Norman Powell, but the reason the Sixers were as good as they were last year is because Harden was an elite playmaker and they were able to get Embiid in the spots that he needed to become an MVP. I think without Harden, they might be the worst passing team in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And it actually won't be particularly close. So that's one piece of it. They made the Jalen McDaniels trade last season for Matisse Thybulle in the 35th overall pick, and they just let McDaniels go for nothing. So like they literally traded the 34th overall pick. They could have had Jordan Walsh. Could have had the Walsh dog. Instead, they get nothing for Matisse Thybulle. And they lost Niang, they lost Shake Milton, and they've replaced them with 35-year-old Patrick Beverley. And I've just seen they've brought in Mo Bamba. What could go wrong with that?
Yeah, he's killed it everywhere he's been, right?
There's been absolutely no reason he's bounced around from team to team for his whole career so far. So, yeah, I think Philly is like an actual contender. Might be over. I don't see it.
Harden was really important to them this regular season, and he basically won two playoff games. Two of their three playoff games were basically because James Harden got stupid hot from three. So, he's really difficult to like, but he was like setting the table for those guys all year long. And Maxey, I like him a lot as a player, is just not that guy. He's closer to Tyler Hero than he is James Harden when it comes to playmaking. He's probably worse than Hero as a playmaker.
Yeah. That's what Sixers fans are praying. Is it like there's a Maxey playmaking leap? Because without that, they don't really have
a guard.
Yeah, like Maxey's really good, but that's kind of a hope. That's similar to us hoping that Oshae Brissett shoots 39% from three. Like there hasn't really been anything that shows you that Maxey's going to become an elite pick and roll ball handler between last season and this season. Both things are possible.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hope Oshae Brissett is the one that happens. But yeah,
right.
I think but like I don't know about you, but like the Sixers, that was their best shot was last season. That was the best team, no, maybe tied best team with the Jimmy team. But now, like, they're out of
and Niang gave them good minutes in the playoffs too, man. And they haven't really replaced him. And McDaniels, whatever, he's not that great, but like that's just bad asset management. You're just losing assets. And when you are a contender and drafting late in the draft and way over the cap, like you can't really afford to just blow assets on essentially nothing. So I'm with you. Even if they bring Harden back, I think he's going to be a guy that falls off a cliff pretty hard. And I think he's well on his way. So, and who knows with Embiid, man, like I think he's one more bad season away from probably asking out, dude. I really think so.
Yeah. But I know so it's like we kind of need them to win like 49 games and be like a fifth seed, because we want them to be good enough where he doesn't ask for a trade, because I think if he goes to like the Knicks or something, a team that it maybe has a bit more upside, we don't want that. We want that, right? That was why I like Doc Rivers as the coach. He was perfect. Like a ceiling capper. So hopefully Harden comes back, because I think that's probably like the best kind of middle ground for a Celtics perspective. The Bucks. So I was really hoping the Bucks were going to lose Lopez. I do appreciate the Rockets bumping that price up to $24 million for Brook Lopez in the year 2023. That's a serious contract. But again, like in year 2023, it's not that much. They bring back Middleton on a pretty good contract as well. So like from that perspective, that's good. But they lost Javon Carter and they lost Joe Ingles and they signed Malik Beasley. Those are like the moves that they made. Malik Beasley cannot play in the playoffs.
Nope.
Like he could not play in the playoffs for the Lakers at all. Firstly, he couldn't make a shot because he got the deer in the headlights, and he might be the worst defender on the Bucks. Like he's a disaster on defense. I promise you though, there's going to be games where we're watching the Bucks and they're in a tight game against the Pistons, and then Malik Beasley hits 3 threes and they win the game. Like he like similar
no
to
doubt.
Like Javon Carter was really good for them last season in that role, right? He shot 40% from 3, but was a much better defender. I think they're actually going to feel that. Joe Ingles was solid for them in the regular season, didn't help them in the playoffs. I think the big news, and this is like not, again, we don't want anyone to get injured. Middleton had another knee surgery in the offseason. That's 2 knee surgeries in 12 months. He hasn't had a good playoff run, a healthy year now since the 2021 season. And he's on the other side of 30. That does not bode well for Chris Middleton. And then Giannis just came out today that he had a knee surgery. Doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but like if you're a Bucks fan, having your 2 best players have knee surgeries in the offseason, I don't think you can spin as a good thing.
No, definitely not. I would be I know they got Middleton at a pretty reasonable number, I thought, but I'd still be terrified of that contract, dude. I just don't think you can trust him to stay healthy and be the guy he's been anymore. So a lot of where the Bucks go is where Middleton can partially take them. You know what I mean? Like they just don't have anybody else next to Giannis who's a true offensive creator. Drew's not really that guy. No. And Middleton was, man, that late game, the Middleton Giannis pick and roll, and Middleton was filthy at that. And, offensively he still looked pretty good, but I don't know. I'd just be scared if I was the Bucks. It feels like they're kind of a house of cards here.
Yeah, they are very old at the moment. Them and the Sixers are just like relying on old, slow people at this point. And that's not typically a winning strategy. And every title team needs things to go their way, but they're a Kyrie Irving and a James Harden injury and a Kevin Durant toe, like from not getting out of the second round.
Yeah.
And since then, they had issues against the Celtics in the half court. They had really big issues against the Heat in the half court, and I don't think they've solved that problem. And their perimeter defense is worse already than it was last year, and that's the Celtics' biggest advantage against the Bucks is that they cannot contain the Jays. And Javon Carter was one of their better perimeter defenders, and it's only gotten worse. And the rest of those guys have only gotten older. So I feel good about the Celtics at the top of the East right now. Like the East is kind of like not doing so well. But yeah, so the thing that's really concerning though, we dodged the Bradley Beal trade.
Which I may have preferred that given what might happen.
Well, here's the thing. The Bradley Beal to Miami trade may have been worse just because of the no trade clause and they wouldn't have had to give up anything.
Right.
Like that from like that perspective. But this Damian Lillard thing, I don't know about you. I would be surprised if he doesn't end up on the Heat. Eventually, right?
Yeah, it feels like it's just bound to happen. I don't know how they're going to do it, but the Heat always find a way, man.
The thing is, and I literally had a dream last night that the Heat traded for Dame Lillard without giving up Caleb Martin, Jaime Jaquez, and Jovic. Like they did it with like just nothing basically, and I was having this terrible nightmare. If the Blazers extract every cent, every drop of blood, squeeze this piece of coal until it turns into a diamond, it's okay. Like if they lose, like I want them to keep Tyler Hero because I think that's a negative contract. I want it to be like Lowry's expiring, Duncan Robinson, Jaime Jaquez, Caleb Martin, and Jovic, and every pick they have to where it's just Bam, Jimmy, Dame, Hero, and like now they've got to reshape the roster. I actually feel okay about that. Like if their defensive backcourt is Dame and Hero, I know that they're satanic wizards. but I feel pretty comfortable. I feel more comfortable attacking that than I think that Tyler Hero not playing made the Heat defense better.
Yeah, I've been shouting that from the heavens.
Yeah.
It definitely made their defense better. And then Caleb Martin and Gabe Vincent going bananas from three covered up the offensive worries, and that fell apart in the finals. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt it turned them into a different type of team that may have been beneficial in the playoffs.
I'm just concerned that they're going to be able to do this deal where it's Hero that goes out, they keep Robinson, they keep Caleb Martin, and they keep these two young guys. Like when the Heat drafted Jaime Jaquez, I'm so glad I've learned his name. One, it's made me more sad because he basically sounds like the Kamehameha, and I already thought he was awesome to begin with. He's been awesome in Summer League, obviously, because he's like 24 years old, but he's kind of like probably ready to plug and play for the Heat right now. But if you're the Blazers, you need to get those young guys. You need to get those young guys back. If you're going to do this Miami trade, you have to get everything. I'm just concerned that they're going to get it done without, like, they're going to get the Heat poo-poo platter. They shouldn't, though, right? Like, there's no reason for the Blazers to do this trade unless they get every last bit of value. Otherwise, like, just wait.
Yeah. I think they're going to do what Morey did with Harden and just wait. Like, he's under contract. Like, you can go into next season with him on the team. Like, who cares? You're not trying to win anyway, so what's it matter? So that's the only way I can see it not working out, is if not working out with Dame going to the Heat, is if the Blazers really, really dig their heels in, or like, no, we are waiting for the right package. You know, you need to give us some more teams here. And I think Dame is a baller. He's not going to want to sit a season out. He's not Ben Simmons. You know what I mean? So I think that we're in for a lot of Dame updates over the next 6 months. It's going to be awful.
Man.
Yeah.
I think you have to wait it out. But like, if you're a Heat fan, you're the media, the package is going to be out there. It's going to, like, the league, like, they obviously started with this package. You don't want to offer everything to start. But like, eventually the pressure's going to build, and the Heat are not making other moves. Like, if they end up having to gut the roster to make the Dame move, the longer they wait to make the move, the less guys there are out there. But, you know, the Heat are good at finding a way. People in the chat talking about, like, I have seen, like, Nurkic, yeah. Nurkic being floated as someone that the Blazers want to dump back in a Heat deal. That would actually, I think that would fit well in the Heat. He's not great. I used to think, but he's a really solid offensive player.
He used to be, and then injuries have like sapped him of any limited athleticism he had. Yeah, like, he's a beast on the glass and stuff, but I don't think he can play in the playoffs anymore.
He's better than Cody Zeller, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Like, that's probably the thing. Yeah, I think right now I would say I'm most scared of the Heat. I don't know if I was to power rank the fear level, but like, it's Miami and Milwaukee in the tier on their own, and then that's kind of it. Other than that, like, Cavs still don't scare me despite adding Max Strus and George Niang, and the Sixers never really scared me, even though it did get dicey there for a moment.
It did get very dicey, but yeah, I think I'm with you. I think I'd probably still have the Bucks above the Heat, which I just can't bring myself to move the Heat up there, even though I probably should at this point. And then the Sixers, I might have the Cavs over the Sixers at this point, honestly, as far as who I'm worried about in the playoff series. But man, they looked so bad last year against the Knicks. So I don't know. Yeah,
until they figure out that Allen Mobley thing, you just can't play two non-threats on offense. It just makes you so easy to defend. And then so we will see. But man, what a day! It doesn't NBA offseason. And man,
one thing about Brad's tenure is it's not boring, dude. Jesus. He makes moves. So unfortunately, we should probably admit that the Lakers did pretty well in free agency, and that's it. So of course they did. But all right, Jake, unless you got anything else, man, I think that's going to do it for this one. Everybody listening in the chat, watching, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We are out.